Welcome to Salvage, a podcast for conversations with artists about the repurposed materials they use in their art practice. Please enjoy my conversation with Amy Meissner. Anchorage, Alaska artist Amy Meissner combines traditional handwork, found objects, and abandoned textiles to reference the literal, physical, and emotional labor of women. Manipulating discarded household cloth to create two-dimensional quilt-like forms and three-dimensional objects serves as a cultural nod to the embroidery created by the generations of Scandinavian women in her family and confronts societal disregard and erasure of women's handwork. Amy says, this is time-based work, using old skills, an act of cutting apart, then piecing oneself back together. Thank you so much, Amy, for agreeing to chat with me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too.
Yeah. I was thinking back, we met in 2017, right?
At Quilt National.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure of the year, and I kind of, I had to skim through your resume and my resume. I'm like, oh, okay, that matched up. It must have been this.
Where does it? Yeah, where's the Venn diagram of our relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we have continued keeping up. Maybe
I
not
know.
as much.
I'm proud of ourselves for keeping in touch.
Exactly.
Not all the time, but it's it's been nice.
Yeah, it has been. I think it was a little more intense keeping up in the beginning, and then it kind of filtered out. But that makes sense. Life takes
I blame
over. COVID, yeah, and we're a pretty big distance apart. You're in Alaska and I'm in New York, so time
makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about your art practice, but one of the things I'm always curious about is an artist's path to becoming an artist. So were you an artist as a kid?
I was an artist as a kid, and I was also really insecure and really shy, really painfully shy. And when my mom realized that I liked to draw, I liked to work with my hands, one of the first things that I asked to be taught was how to embroider. That was something that I was the oldest child, so she had time. It was something that she made time for, I would say, in her day, was to sit and embroider. And she tells this story of me coming at 2 or 3 years old with some string off of my toy or something and saying, me too, I want to do this, somebody to show me. And so once she realized that I had this, I guess, propensity to work with my hands and to work visually with artwork, she really encouraged it. And I think she felt like it boosted my confidence to have something that I could become good at, or that came naturally, maybe in the beginning. And then she, was able to foster just with her encouragement. And so, I have always been an artist, which is kind of not a hard thing to say, but I think it's something that is important to recognize, because I've done a lot of work in different fields that kind of overlap, back to that sort of Venn diagram. I spent 12 years in the fashion industry. Before that, I have undergraduate degrees in art and also textiles. So ended up going to the fashion industry. And then afterwards, I ended up illustrating children's books. And I was a painter when I did that work. And then when I had kids, I reached back for textiles again, because it was a form that I could work in and a medium that I could work in that was, it made more sense when I had little kids. They were, I was illustrating books when you had to FedEx your paintings to the publisher. I mean, you had to get slides taken of your work. I mean, it was a big deal. It was in some ways, a different kind of labor intensity than it is now. It's still very labor intensive, but it was just physically different. And so if you had a little helper who thought they needed to make a little mark on your completed painting, there was no way to fix that
Yeah.
easily. And so, whereas with textiles, fiber, it was more forgiving in terms of motherhood,
Hmm.
and that was the kind of care that I needed from those materials at that time. I
Yeah.
could reach back to me being a 2 or 3-year-old sitting with my mother and doing, quote, this kind of work.
Hmm.
It made sense to me, finally. I think this long lineage of women in my family who all did that kind of work. And they did it for, the pleasure of doing that work. They did it to beautify their home. They did it to donate to the church in Sweden. That was a huge thing for my family. And they did it with little kids.
Yeah.
Great grandmother had 9 children on a farm, and
Oh my gosh.
she still managed to crochet throughout the year. Her specialty was this narrow crocheted band, like a filigree, that would then get inserted into a top sheet.
Oh
And
wow.
then that would be donated to the state church every year around Christmas time. And it would be auctioned off with other work from other women in the village.
Mm.
And her work was really well known. It never had her name on it anywhere, but everyone knew. Oh,
Yeah.
Nani's, her name was Nani. Nani's sheets will last a really long time. Her handwork is really, really strong. She uses the right kind of thread. And so there was just this like way of establishing yourself within a community by your handwork. And a lot of that kind of trickled down, and it became a really important part of my own life.
Yeah. That's really wonderful that you have such a long heritage of that kind of work. I think that's kind of becoming more and more rare these days.
I feel that way too. I
Yeah.
think one of the things I really tried to do with my own kids is make sure that they learned. Both of them know how to use a sewing machine. The first thing that my son ever made was he had this idea. He's like, Mom, I have this idea for all of my Nerf bullets. I want to have this like thing that comes across my chest with all my Nerf bullets in it. I'm like, a bandolier? You want a bandolier? So we figured out how to make it, and we used like wide elastic, and I taught him how to stitch it, in lines on the sewing machine, and he could stick all of his Nerf bullets in it. And he still hand repairs all of his clothes.
That is
He
amazing.
just it's his, he's puts the big headphones on and whatever he's listening to and just does handwork. And I think it's his way of like regulating his nervous system.
Yeah.
My daughter is incredible at crocheting like little teeny tiny octopuses and things and making earrings. And
Oh
they're both
yes.
just they're both like really, really artistic and hands-on and physical with their surroundings. And I
Hmm.
think growing up in Alaska, it has a lot to do with that.
How's that?
Um, I think I think folks up here are used to being remote.
Mm.
I remember a time, I mean, I've been here for 26 years. I remember when nobody shipped to Alaska, right? There was no, like, Amazon was like, well, maybe they'll ship here. But, we were part of the non-contiguous
Right.
US. So it was like us in Hawaii, like,
Yeah.
no, you could sort of order things online, but not really. And you'd get all the way through the thing and then say, oh, sorry, we actually don't ship to you.
Ugh.
So I think there's this long history, and oh my gosh, certainly with indigenous culture
Hmm.
of using what is at hand
Hmm.
and making it work. And the same is true of what I guess, for lack of a better term, I would call like settler culture,
Hmm.
which I am part of. And so um, now Amazon's here, and now we can get whatever we want. It takes a little bit longer,
Right.
takes a week, takes, 6 days or whatever. It's not
Yeah. No
overnight.
next day shipping, but that's okay.
No, no, which is fine. It's I think up here we've learned to like live with a kind of tempered immediate gratification. Like
Mm.
there's sort of like taking a pause, maybe I don't need this thing. Maybe there's something else. Maybe I can tweak a thing. Maybe I can fix a thing. I think there's just because there's that lag time. I think it kind of, in some ways, I know for our family anyway, it has kind of forced us to just take a pause, take a beat. Do I really need it?
I'm going to write
And
this down.
question.
Tempered immediate gratification. That sounds like a name of an exhibition.
Mm. Just pulled it right out of my head. I don't even know if that's the right terminology, but yeah, I think anything we can do, for us, for our mental health, to yeah, just take a beat, take a moment. Do
Yeah.
you do you need to consume that thing? Do you need to say that thing? Maybe it's the first thing that popped into your head, but is it the first thing that needs to come out of your mouth? Maybe
Right.
not. So yeah,
No,
I think
absolutely. I remember, you know, being told by my parents or by that, like think before you speak. That used to be a saying that everybody
no.
said, think before you speak. I'm not so sure that is something that's being said these days,
Oh,
being
or
cautioned
practiced.
or
I
practiced.
don't think
Yes.
it's said or practiced. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's good to, certainly within your family culture and certainly within your friend culture. I think it's, I know I am drawn to people that practice these kind of same
Yeah.
principles, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit, how did you decide to start creating art? Did you just start making things for your family and then somehow that transition into making art? Or did you start making things to be art from the very beginning? When you transitioned from your careers and had children and started making?
It was, I felt very much like I had a latent skill. I used to make custom made wedding gowns
Right.
and work with clients, and I really um, had good training on how to fit the body, but also how to fit the mind and of a client, which there's a lot of hand holding that happens when you're working with brides. And
Absolutely.
so I've always had this sort of like emotional enmeshment, even with, which was not healthy for me as a 20 something. To be emotionally attached to a wedding gown that you're sending out the door, that this person, to them it was an object. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it was important, but also they had no problem going and jumping in a fountain for a photo opportunity, at
Yeah.
which point I would have to fix their problem later. um Usually returning in a steaming garment bag after their honeymoon, where this dress had been sitting for 2 weeks
Rotting. Yeah.
rotting. Yeah, thanks, now it's my problem. That To be emotionally attached to objects like during that time, like I said, was not healthy. But I also had enough training as an artist in undergrad to have that impulse of communicating through artwork. And my emphasis was on drawing and painting.
Hmm.
Um, I never made artwork out of fiber or textiles.
Hmm.
I never did that. And then um, the very first piece that I ever made was based on, I guess I would call it a narrative piece. It was based on something that happened, and I can describe that story. And I felt like I needed something. I needed a conduit to say what I needed to say and
Hmm.
to work through in a really repetitive way what had happened and why I didn't respond to it initially in the correct way, and how I came to understand the situation. So the very first piece that I made was a wall hanging, and it was in the quilt form. It was all pieced, made from textiles that were in my trunk that my great grandmother had made, that my grandmother in Sweden
Hmm.
had made, that aunts had made, things that had been sent to me that felt too precious to use. And I don't want to use the word burdensome, but they were definitely objects that I needed to manage and transport and care for, and yet not really use.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like the save the best for never kind of situation. And I think, well, I know after I had both of my kids, I really had some postpartum struggles that lasted for a long time. They didn't manifest themselves as like deep depression, but I certainly had like postpartum anxiety, postpartum OCD. It was, I'm looking back now, I'm like, oh, that's what was going on.
Yeah.
I wasn't going crazy. I was hormonally challenged. And so this event happened where I had a brand new baby, my second child, and my son was just a little guy, and he slipped a penny behind a nightlight in the hallway, and it fused to the prongs.
Ah,
And yeah, and I was in the shower when this happened. And I was like, don't go anywhere. Mom's gonna have like a 15-second shower while the baby's napping. I mean, it was that kind of thing. And all of a sudden the smoke detector is going off in the house, the
oh
like
my God.
hardwired fire alarm, and I come barreling out of the shower with my like the towel, I'm dripping wet, and he's just standing in the hallway. Like pretty much where I'd left him, it's
Yeah.
like 20 seconds earlier. And I knew that he had had a coin in his pocket earlier. And it was like the first thing that popped into my head because he had his hands in his pocket. And I said, what'd you do with the penny? And his little eyes just kind of went over to the light. And that's when I realized there was like black smoke shooting up the wall. And it
Oh
was
my
bad. It was really bad. So
Oh,
nothing caught on fire,
thank
but
goodness.
his experience with the noise and like it was like the direct, like his actions had a direct consequence, and he was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And he asked me, starting that day and continuing on for what seemed like months, Mama, what in this house can catch on fire? What's going to catch on fire? And I was like, well, these curtains are going to catch on fire, and the carpet's going to catch on fire, and the clothes are going to catch on fire, and the paper's going to catch on fire, and you're going to catch on fire, and we're all going to catch on fire. It's just like by the time he'd asked me, like the 12th time, I was just like over it. And then it occurred to me, like, I am not answering this kid's question. Like, I'm not practicing good parenting. I'm not drilling down to like find out what this kid is actually afraid of.
Hmm.
And what he was asking was, what can just catch on fire for no reason? And so he was asking about spontaneous combustion. That is what he was asking.
Right.
And so the piece that I made was in direct response to everything that I just described to you, this story. And it is a quilt, not unlike the quilt that's behind me, that repeats, I think, 10 times, Mama, what in this house can catch on fire?
Mm.
Throughout all of the blocks. And it's made out of these vintage linens and this crochet work. So it's mostly white. And then the letters are kind of a dark gray wool. And it is so powerful. And the piece is called Spontaneous Combustion.
Hmm.
And what I realized, I mean, I worked on this thing for like a year because when you have little kids and you're doing hand turned
Yeah.
applique wool letters, like you're just
15 minutes at a time.
stealing time.
Yeah.
Each letter takes 20 minutes. It doesn't
Right.
matter if it's an R or a T, or I's go pretty fast.
Yes.
O's are tricky, R's are tricky, and yeah, by the time I got through the end of it, I had so much time to process and think about what had happened and my response to it and his response to it. And now there was an object that literally was a time capsule of that event. I realized the title had to be Spontaneous Combustion, and the thing in the house that was spontaneously combusting was me.
Yeah.
It was me.
Hmm.
And as somebody who's gone through a postpartum situation, like I really felt like, oh my God, that piece allowed me to crawl out of that dark space.
Hmm.
The work was, I entered it into a show at the Anchorage Museum. It got into the show. I'd never had anything at the museum before. That was a huge, big deal. And
Amazing.
then it won the Jurors' Choice Award, and then the museum purchased it. So
Oh
it's
my
in the
gosh.
permanent collection of the Anchorage Museum, which I mean, it just blew me away that
Hmm.
I had something to say. I had a problem to work through. I could reach back into like this long history of craft,
Hmm.
show it in a museum with literally all the women in my family a part of it because their work allowed my work to even happen.
Yeah.
And that was the trajectory. And that was, I think, in like, I don't know, 2014, or I think I probably started working on the piece in 2010. I think I finished it in 2013. I mean, it was like, it was a long haul to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that piece finished and not, and really living in the not knowing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know
Hmm.
where it's going to go. It just felt so important to do it.
Right.
And I think that's where all that training to, in art school to like be an artist and be in that uncomfortable space of not knowing served me really, really well and has
Absolutely.
continued to serve me.
Yeah.
That
And
was
I
a
think,
really long answer.
no, that was great. That was an awesome story. But I think that that is an important part of any artist's art practice is being in that space of not knowing.
Is really uncomfortable.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's important.
it is because you don't know what you don't know, and you can try and control your life. You can try and control all the things, all the people, all the feelings, but ultimately, all you can do is control yourself and how you show up. And if that means I'm showing up in my studio, I try to get in here every single day. Life happens. I don't.
Hmm.
Sometimes I just show up and just move stuff around.
Oh, yeah.
I unpack a box, repack it, regroup materials together, rethink them, throw things away.
Yeah.
I can't keep everything. And so sometimes I'm like, why do I have all of these things, that I picked up off of the road? I'm not going to use them. So it's time to let them go. And I think that too is really helpful um, to let things go because I think they just take up space. It's almost like they make like a giant plug and the energy just can't come through you, can't come through the space that you're working in. And so sometimes just a big old purge
Yeah.
is super important.
I will completely agree. There's things that I hold on to and I'm like, all right, I know what I want to do with this. It's going to happen someday. And someday becomes years and years and years. And then I
Yeah.
look at it and like, I don't want to make what I thought I was going to make out of this
You've
anymore.
changed. You have changed
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
cellular level. Like you as
Exactly.
a person, you have changed.
Yeah.
And
Then you
it
just got
doesn't
to let
fit
go.
you.
You got to
Yeah,
let go. Yeah. So after that piece, you started a whole new art practice for yourself, essentially.
I did.
And you
Yeah,
continued.
and it's continued. And I would say I have never felt shy about saying that I have an art practice that is rooted in motherhood.
Mm,
And it emerged from motherhood. It is in response to motherhood. It is feelings around motherhood and this just the domestic space.
yeah.
And I think some of it has to do with the textiles that I use. I mean, they originated from the domestic space. I still use um, what I kind of think of as abandoned
Yeah.
embroideries, abandoned handwork, certainly anonymous.
Right.
And there are mountains of it
Yeah.
in the world. And I think my first impulse to go through my own trunk and my own collection had a lot to do with frugality.
Yeah.
I didn't, there was at that time and now too, there was nothing that would like deflate my interest and my inspiration more than walking into like a quilt store because I'm not interested in that fabric. I'm
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
it's mass produced. I'm like, I mean, it's great. It's great. If you want to make a bed quilt,
Hmm.
awesome. It's sturdy, it's colorful, it's fun, it's strong. It's great. But to make a piece of artwork, it was not inspiring to me. And they're just like the energy that lives inside an unwanted domestic textile, whether it's a pot holder or a table runner or a crocheted whatever, um, that is interesting to me.
Yeah.
That a woman, and I will say it's a woman because I know there are men out there who embroider, and I have received work from a man who just really got on a cross stitch kick and made all kinds of sailboat images. It
But
was
yeah,
his
those are
daughter.
rare.
Those are rare. I know
Very
it's kind
rare.
of special.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say primarily women of us like a certain era. Nobody signed their things, but they made prolifically, and sometimes never finished things.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
made the flower part of the needlepoint, but left the background because that's
It's,
boring. Nobody wants to do that part.
yeah. So
So I'm interested in that energy. I'm interested in what the back looks like. I'm interested in, especially garments. Like I've done huge projects before where there was no way I could afford for like a commissioned project of a set amount. There was no way I could afford the fabric that I needed if I had bought it at
yeah,
retail.
right. So you
So
thrifted for
I
it.
use clothing.
Yeah.
Like there's so much clothing in the world.
Yes.
And it used to be that you could get good quality fabric, and now it's tanking, unfortunately, which is really sad.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
yeah, that's always been my go-to.
Yeah. So a few years ago, oh gosh, it's so hard to judge time. It was pre-pandemic, I'm quite sure of it. Um, you were asking people everywhere, I think, to send you um, either doilies or unfinished embroideries or just whatever vintage things that they no longer needed. And it was lace and crochet and everything. And I remember being very grateful to be able to send you a whole bunch of stuff that I had no use for. And you did a really sweet thing. And actually, I'm looking over there on my design wall over there. I remember you as a thank you. You sent a little crocheted flower attached to a hang tag where you actually wrote when you made it, that it was you who made it, and I think what it was made from. I can't see it from, you can't read it from here, which was lovely. It's something I treasure. It's still
Oh.
hanging there. I think I have two or three of them. Um,
You
but
were a repeat offender.
yes,
Kidding. Yeah. But yeah, I think I changed colors maybe even if someone
yes,
sent a
I
second
have
time.
two red and one ecru. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So first time and then the second two. Yeah. Second two boxes.
What was, do you remember what that project was that you were collecting all those textiles for?
Yeah, it was gosh, I want to say it was probably started in about 2015 or so. And I called it the Inheritance Project. And
Ah,
there again, I had no idea what I was doing. I had an active blog at that time, and it was just kind of a way of, God, I just met so many people through that blog when I think about it. And
blogging was big back then.
it was
I had,
big.
yeah,
Well, there
I
was like
had a
this
blog
great
too.
community that erupted the blog. It was so lovely. But yeah, I had asked, or I had offered, I'll say it this way, to be kind of the final inheritor, right? If you had a box or a drawer or a cupboard full of things that, you knew you weren't going to use, that you knew nobody else in your family wanted, like please ask the nieces, ask the grandchildren, ask the sisters, like make sure nobody wants it. And if that's the case, I will be the final inheritor, and I will cut it up. I will, like, I'm not gonna, I couldn't take things
Yeah,
that
I
were
remember
like conditional.
you were
I was
very
pretty
open about
clear.
it. This is
Yeah, I was,
not going to stay the way it is. I
yeah,
will destroy this.
yeah. If you are okay with that, think about it. I will happily receive. And it was, I don't remember. I mean, there were hundreds of people that sent me things. And I had a solo show at the Anchorage Museum based on that project, and it was called Inheritance. And one of the installations on the wall was done with vinyl lettering on the wall. And it was a list. I think there were like, I don't know, 500 or 600 names on this list. Because one of the things that I asked people was like, if you know anything about the maker, when it was made, where it was made, send
Mhm.
that along. And some people did. Some people put like little tags on things and pinned notes on things. And other people were like, I have no idea where this came from. I don't know
Yeah.
why I have it. I don't know. I've been lugging it around from like Kentucky to Missouri to California to Nebraska. I've been carrying this stuff around. I don't know why. So of this list of names on the wall, hundreds,
That's amazing. So you
90,
made a
yeah,
list of those names that people sent you.
well,
Wow.
90%, 90 or more percent of those names was the word unknown, right?
Oh,
And
so
then you'd
you
have like,
even listed the word unknown. Oh my
yes,
gosh.
for every
Wow.
single item that I received, I have a binder with a spreadsheet full. It was such a physical project.
Wow.
I have like who sent me what, all the different items, like one doily, one table runner, this and this and this and this, and the person's name and any maker or identifying information. It was a massive project,
Wow.
and it allowed me to make this list. And I would watch people in the gallery like come up to this list and start reading it, and it was titled like list of contributors or list of makers, I think is
Hmm.
what. And you could see like the wheels turning for people when they're reading it. They're just like, oh, like we don't even know who makes all of these things. And yeah, it's one thing to have a grandparent or someone in your life who you remember watching crochet or do handwork or something, but then what happens to it,
Yeah.
right? It just goes, I don't know, just goes into the ether kind of. And
I
so
know. Yeah.
it was a powerful project, and there was a community art component to it, and it was just, yeah, I was really, really grateful to have a space at the museum to have this show. I actually just sold a piece that was part of that show, and the person who bought it for me was a man. He bought it for his wife, and he said, I always regretted not buying one of these. It was one of a number together. One of these back when you had your show, and
Oh.
this was like the one that was left that was of
Oh,
the size that he wanted, and I still had it, and it stuck with him from 2018 until
that's
a
amazing.
week ago, literally.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it's that kind of. I feel like it's these materials are really potent in that way.
I
They're
agree.
really sticky and they're intimate. Like people come right up to the work and you can see them like shove their hands in their pockets so that they don't. But I think what happens when you have that like that draw, or I think textiles do this, like they create a close proximity, and it is when somebody is really close to something,
Hmm.
that's when you can deliver the gut punch, because now they're up and now they realize what is actually happening
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
on the textile or in the piece, or what it's saying, or they're looking at the title and they're looking back at the piece and kind of doing this back and forth dance and like understanding um what this work is doing.
Yeah.
So at least I've seen it, but it's my hope that it's like that is what happens.
Right. Right.
It's
Do you-
not like I'm entering into it like, okay, this is what I'm going to say and this is what I'm going
right.
to do. It's like, no, everybody's going to come to the work with their own history, with their
Always.
own experience, always, right? But but yeah, I think it's been a good kind of connective tissue in terms of like communicating with other people.
Yeah. And do you remember what the community component of that exhibition was?
Yeah. So I had a series of workshops at the Anchorage Museum leading up to the exhibition. I had a bunch of hankies, like linen handkerchiefs that
Hmm.
had come, and all different sizes and shapes and colors and embroideries or not, or simple and ornate. And I asked these participants who would sign up in advance. I think there were about 80 or 90 people
Oh, wow.
who did this project. I asked them to bring an object and to, I think, how did I word it? I think you had to like think about a woman in your life. That's what it was. Bring an object that you were ready to release that had to be small
Mm-hmm.
and answer the question for yourself, she is or she was.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that word was then embroidered on these prepared handkerchiefs. They were backed with silk organza, so they were sheer.
Oh,
And then I taught people how to embed an object in between those two layers,
oh wow.
as well as embroider this word. So the community art piece was called She Is / She Was. And then it's just these words
Oh,
that are describing their experience and memory of whoever this woman was that they
right.
chose.
Oh,
And
that's
I
so
mean,
lovely.
there are rings embedded in it.
Oh my
There's a
God.
pair of underwear, like lacy thong underwear embedded in it. Jewelry, like one person brought in a broken pearl bracelet
Hmm.
that her mother-in-law, or actually ex-mother-in-law, had like real quick put on her wrist, like right before she went down the aisle to marry this woman's son,
Uh-huh.
and then divorced later or whatever. But this bracelet, which was, the beads were everywhere, is all broken, these little pearls, was such it was such a reminder of her ex-mother-in-law, and she embedded it inside of these two layers. And I can't remember what the term was that she embroidered on there. It was like I think it was like too intense or like involved or something. I can't remember, but it was like super meaningful for her to
Yeah.
like work through this memory and to release this object.
Wow.
So
And what
not
happened?
for everyone, it was not personal or
Right.
not positive. Some
Yeah.
people had
Yeah.
some really negative
Well, sure.
emotion they had to drive into it.
Yeah. What
And
happened
that's
to all those
also
hankies?
they were strong, like stitched together so that they hung alternating in like alternating columns of
Ah.
10. I think this is how they were installed. They were installed from the ceiling and the lights shone through them. So the
Hmm.
pattern play was really beautiful on the floor. You could walk all the way around them. And that became part of the permanent collection at the Anchorage
Oh,
Museum too.
wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. I haven't thought about that piece in a long time. That was an amazing experience to
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
with so many people.
Hey, taking a short break here to tell you that this episode has been brought to you by the Repurposer Collective. So if you're enjoying this episode and you love repurposing old doilies and laces and inherited linens and garments for your art practice, the Repurposer Collective is a place for you. If you are repurposing other materials such as plastic, such as paper, such as cardboard, the Repurposer Collective is the place for you. Whether you are doing all these things by yourself and have been doing them for a long time and have become an expert on them, or you're just starting out and you're wondering how to get started in all of these materials, the Repurposer Collective is the place for you. So I hope you'll join us. The doors are open. repurposercollective.com. And now, back to my conversation with Amy. Thanks. I don't know if that was the first time you worked with so many people, but you seem to have a history of working with many people in teaching them how to sew or teaching them how to mend, how to repair. You're still doing that, or even more so. You're doing that a lot more now, no?
Yeah, there is a consistent series of workshops that I teach also through the Anchorage Museum. I've been doing that since 2019.
Hmm.
And that is part of a project that they have that's actually in a separate building called the Seed Lab. And when I first started, I was co-teaching with another artist. And then COVID time, she left the state. I was teaching through the Anchorage Museum online,
Mm-hmm.
doing different workshops and things, sometimes for kids and sometimes for adults or elders. And And then we kind of started it back up. And when we did start it back up in person, I brought on two more people to co-teach with me,
Oh,
Jamie Hirano and Ming Stevens, and they are incredible. And I love having the three of us because there are so many ways to repair something.
hmm.
And if the three of us consult on a repair, it will be three different ways to repair it. All of them valid. And it can be probably a little bit overwhelming for people who participate in these workshops. But but we really try to send people out the door with a solid plan, even if they can't. We know they're only 2 hours long. Some people come with like a bag of
Oh,
garments that need to be repaired. And so we'll consult on all of them and give them
mhm.
at least a plan. And I think the most important thing is to provide people with a possibility
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
that there is hope, right? And I think that's such a relief for people. And up here especially, I think there's just a long history of repair and maintenance up here.
yeah,
Like that is just what people have always had to do.
yeah,
And I think there's enough young people who are realizing like, wow, I need this gear, what we refer to as gear, that is like made of wool and is going to last me a long time. And it's sometimes technical fabrics, but sometimes really, old-timey like wool fabrics or
mhm,
or things that are tried and true. They're expensive. And when you're 30 something and you're just starting out in your career or your marriage or whatever, I've had like couples come
mhm.
to these workshops and lugging like an old sewing machine or whatever because they really want to take care of their stuff,
Yeah. No,
right? And so there's just this like hope and like long-term thinking. And, we talk about maintenance, we talk about how to launder, we talk about how to care for these things. We talk about short-term fixes. Sometimes you're out in the field and you're going to be out there for a week
hmm.
and all you have is duct tape.
Right.
And if you're down, whatever is leaking feathers everywhere, you got to get that duct tape on
Yep.
there ASAP until you get back home. And then you can repair
Right.
it like a more long-term
Yeah.
solution. Like we don't poo-poo anything. There's no
Yeah.
one right way to do what you need to do. The
Yeah.
main thing is that you have the impulse to repair something that's
Yeah.
broken. That should be your first impulse is
Yeah.
to repair it or find someone who can or come to these workshops, learn what's
Yeah.
possible. We don't see it being done all the time. And even like repair shops up here, I think we're down to one shoe repair place
Yeah.
in Alaska. Like that's
Wow.
it.
That's
That's
crazy.
it. That's all we have. And they are, I just learned this from a friend of mine last month. They are backed up until April.
Wow.
And she learned that in November. So she took a pair of boots down to this place and they gave her this information and they sent her home with like the proper waxed thread and some instructions. And she went home and fixed her boots
That's
based
amazing.
on what the shoe repair place told her to do. I mean, I love that story. I love it
Yes.
so much because um, like people care about their things.
Yeah. No,
And
I think there's a resurgence of people wanting to mend and fix things. Like we have, at least here, there's repair cafes popping up everywhere in
that's great.
church basements or in, community centers, and they're not there all the time, but they do like, every other Sunday pop-ups or something like that. And I think that's wonderful.
It is wonderful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful to share that knowledge, whether you're
Yeah.
sitting with somebody and they're helping you repair your toaster
Yeah.
or a lamp
Yeah.
or a pair of jeans or something. There's immense amount of knowledge that I will say older generations are the ones who are holding this knowledge.
Yeah.
And oh man, we have to pass it on
We do. We
because
do. I
there
have
is
a
no corporation in the world who wants you to be able to repair their thing. Like
yeah.
I wish that there was, and I think some of the maybe outdoor companies are kind of realizing because there's been enough pushback. Certainly Patagonia
Yeah.
and some other companies that are providing care, like kind of long-term care for their garments and taking responsibility
Yeah.
for what they're making and putting out in the thousands into the world and making changes.
Yeah.
Someone told me that Patagonia in particular, um, they do like a welded zipper, so there's no stitching on it at all. So
Oh,
when that zipper breaks, that's it.
yeah.
That's
Wow.
it. And so someone told me that they have maybe stopped using this technique of manufacturing or have adjusted it in some way.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think really what needs to happen as consumers, we need to be educated enough to know what we're purchasing and know, like, okay, I'm buying, let's say, this pair of shoes. Can they be resold? Or can they ever be resold?
Yeah.
Can they be, the sole of the shoe? Can it be replaced? And if not, maybe I shouldn't buy this pair. Maybe I need to look for something else. Maybe, but we don't even know it's possible.
No,
Because
no,
in my case, there's one shoe repair in place in the whole state. So you don't even know it's possible. You're
no.
not seeing it being done.
Yeah.
Repair is done off-site. It's done like in the workplace. Repair happens at night when nobody else is there,
That's right.
or any kind of maintenance or anything like
Yeah.
that. So you don't even see it happening.
Yeah. There
And
used to be a,
repair isn't done in the home anymore either,
no,
right? So you
no,
don't see it happening.
no. There used to be a dry cleaning shop where I used to live, and they had machines out front, and there would be a little old lady who was the mother of the people running the shop who would do repairs,
Yeah.
but they're gone.
Oh,
I just drove by that little mini mall recently, and I was like, oh, they're gone.
they're
I mean,
gone.
I haven't dry cleaned clothes in decades, but you know,
No, but as a supplementary like
yeah,
service to offer people,
yeah,
repair certainly like in the dry cleaning realm, like
mhm,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Machines are always out in the front and
yeah,
yeah, I should look into what the situation is up here in terms of that because I need to be able to I think it's important to know like who's repairing things locally.
yeah.
Who's making, we have something called a bike pogie, and it's a giant sleeve that goes over your hand and over the handle, like sticks on the outside. So it's for winter biking, keeps
Oh,
your hands
gotcha. Yeah,
warm. And
I've
I just
seen that. I
learned
didn't know there was a name for it.
called a pogie. So I just learned last, or 2 weeks ago or whatever, that there's a woman here in Anchorage who is making bike pogies out of um, like discarded coats and jackets.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm like trying to like bring her into this bigger, larger repair conversation. And, so it's just this like ongoing, like who's doing the stuff?
Yeah, yeah,
Somebody's doing it, but we just need to like connect them all
yeah.
in this larger
Well,
conversation.
I'm glad that it's viewing a resurgence because I have a very fond memory of learning how to mend socks with my grandmother, and she was not particularly gifted at sewing. I think I've sent you her attempts at that. And not that I expect you to remember them, but she mended. That was just a thing that we did. And then I remember doing learning how to sew on a button and learning the basic mending things, and then I had a fashion career as well, a fashion and costume career, so I know a lot of textile and garment sewing techniques. And while I lived with my parents, I certainly did things for them, for my dad, besides ironing his shirts or whatever. And
Right.
when first married, I remember hemming my husband's pants and all of that. But I remember when I first got into the art quilting realm, there was this thing people were talking, just because I know how to sew doesn't mean I'm going to hem your pants. And people
Mm.
were like very against being asked to repair or fix or hem or do alterations. And I sort of understand it, but at the same time, it doesn't feel right. Like,
Yeah, I think I have a lot of feelings around that, and I will I will describe the class. Actually, this is I think a good way to like sort of amplify the feelings that I or get them across the feelings that I have around that. Um, because yes, there is like this sort of hierarchical, right,
yeah,
thing that's happening. I will say that when I was a in the fashion industry, I did not aspire to be a repair person, and no, neither did anybody that I worked with.
right.
Right? Nobody. We were all going to be designers, or we
Yep.
were technical pattern makers, or we were whatever.
Yeah.
But nobody was like, I'm going to be a repair person. I'm going to have a shop and I'm going to repair. Nobody wanted that. So
Right.
that is my like launching pad, right? And I had to keep my own personal repairs invisible and quiet. And yes, I'm going to do all these repairs because I don't have the money to dress like my clients. That was,
Yeah.
kind of how I looked at it. Fast forward, even just last summer, I taught in June, I taught at Haystack School of Craft. I taught a course for 2 weeks called Brokenness, the Craft of Repair.
Mm.
And right away, folks started coming around, check out what's happening in the fiber studio. They're like, hey, I got a rip on my thing, can you fix it? And, as there were a couple of younger people in their 20s in my class, and they were just like, yeah, bring it in and I'll fix it for you. And I was just like, okay, hold up. Like, here's how the culture of this classroom is going to work. It's like, yes, we are going to care for people. We're going to care for their things. That's how we care for people. But it let's make it reciprocal,
Mm-hmm.
right? So either there's three things that can happen. Either that person stands next to you while you repair their item. So they're learning
Mm-hmm.
how it's being done, and they are also aware of how long it's taking you.
Yeah.
They have to be right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or option two, you can have them sit next to you and you can teach them how to do this work. There was this whole thing happening after hours in the fiber studio. People from the ceramic studio were coming down and they were like there till 3 o'clock in the morning doing stuff. All of a sudden, like people were showing up with like patches on their jeans and, it's like all over the place. Or the third thing is like trade, right?
Yeah.
I will do this thing for you. You don't have to pay me money, but what do you do that you've invested, your time and energy in that you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're good at? Like what can you do for me, right? Let's trade. So we were about a week into the program, and there was a couple of ceramics assistants for the ceramic studio, and I don't know, I think we were at a meal or something, and they're just like, I don't know what's going on. Like all of a sudden, everybody is making charms. I don't know why they're making charms and ceramics and firing all these charms, but they were making charms because they were trading.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Right. And it was really beautiful. Like it literally sort of like altered the trajectory of like what was happening in a completely different
Mm-hmm.
studio for a few, like a handful of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was really beautiful. And so I sort of think about that in terms of just theories of care, right? And caregiving for another person
Mm-hmm.
by repairing their things, I feel is a really tender act.
Yeah.
Um, Being totally taken advantage of by someone because they assume you're going to fix their thing because you love to sew.
Right.
That is, and I'm using, quotes here in the air, for those of you who are just listening. Um, but that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. And there was a young woman in my course who showed up with a suitcase of items to repair that belonged to her family members. And
Mm-hmm.
so she was repairing these things for her family members. And I finally, like, a few days in, I was like, okay, this is the last thing that you are going to repair for someone else. And now you need to do the work for you, right? Because you're caregiving. She was, I think, maybe like 20 or something. She's pretty
Mm-hmm.
young. And being a good daughter and a
Yeah.
good niece. And, it's like, okay, that's great, but let's also take care of you
Yeah.
in this class. And so when you are caring for a garment, you're touching it. It's also touching you back.
Mm-hmm.
You're caring for it. It's caring for you back. So there is a repetition. There is a lot within like neural pathways that are happening. And so that kind of repetitive meditative work, which could also be a complete burden, could also be, if reframed, um, something that's really practicing self-care.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than like getting to the end of a mending pile.
Yeah.
We all have a mending pile.
Yeah. Or
And
mending chair.
or mending chair, mending pile on the floor, a box, whatever. It feels great to go through it. And attend to what kind of feels like unfinished business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No,
Clean it up.
I was sick with the flu in December, and like I had no energy to do anything else. But I was also sort of tired of binging on television, and I finally like got to my own personal mending pile. I sat there and I mended some holes in a shirt, and I embroidered around stains on another shirt that were never going to come out. So I might, but I love the shirt, so I'm going to make it something else, you know. But
And
I sat there and I just stitched.
what I find so resonant about what you just said is that you were ill.
Yeah,
And so part of your recovery, let's call it that, was I'm going to do something that feels productive,
yeah,
but it was part of your self-care too.
yeah. It
Yeah, I
absolutely
think
was.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So.
I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yes, me too. Oh, no, I think that's wonderful what you're doing there. And I remember watching some of your Instagram videos where, or maybe there were more than videos, there were like many photos, posts of how you were doing some interesting repairs on some odd garments and things like that. And I know a lot about garments, having spent so much time making them at one point. But it was so fascinating to me how you approached repair. It's like it was just, I don't know. And I think it would be fascinating to someone who doesn't even know how to sew to like go through them and go, oh wow, that's what goes into repairing, a tear in a pocket or something.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's fascinating. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks,
I'm
Natalia.
I'm glad you've done those tutorials, even for people to see out there.
Just to know what's possible.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm actually glad also that there's this whole um, visible mending thing going on, because I think that kind of makes it more fun for people who might
Sure.
be like, oh, there's no way I'm good enough to make this a mend that can't be visible. But if I make it somewhat artistic and with fun colors, then it becomes something fun. So I'm glad
Yeah,
to see that.
I think it makes it more accessible.
Yeah,
And certainly there are many, many situations where a person cannot wear a visible repair, right?
yeah,
It could be that they're repairing a uniform or they're in a work situation where that's just not appropriate. And I
yeah.
totally understand that. And, I've done big projects where I'm repairing for a lot of people
Hmm.
and I have them fill out a form and ask them, do you want this repair to be visible or invisible? And I would say 80% of them want it invisible.
Uh,
Like there's still enough of a stigma where it's like, especially I would say too, especially for men, right? I think it's
yeah.
like, no, just just repair the rip, ma'am. Don't don't do it. Just make it strong and sturdy. Don't do, and I get it. And also it's not appropriate to
Yeah,
do some hand repair on a blown out pair of Carhartts.
yeah,
That's not appropriate, because it's not going to last. So
yeah,
yeah, it's just I think it's a good exercise in active listening too. Like if you are repairing for someone else, like find out what they want, and
yeah,
what they feel comfortable with. And I think that's just good practice anyway.
yeah. And it's interesting to me. So we started the conversation about your art practice, about you using historic textiles, inherited textiles in your art practice, and then we've shifted into mending and repair, but that is still a part of your art practice.
It is. I would call it my social practice
Mm,
is accompanying objects through this transition
yeah,
of repair, and repairing with and for others is part of my social practice.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation, Amy. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Natalia. It's
Yeah,
been great to hang out.
yeah. Okay, but quick question. You have exhibits coming up? Anything in 26 that we should be on the lookout for?
I have a solo show here in Anchorage. It's a small one, and that's happening in April. Um, and I have a couple things here and there, but yeah, it's been a little bit quiet lately, so that's fine.
Okay.
I've needed to sort of hole up and do work for this show that's local,
Mm-hmm.
and Yeah, pursuing a couple other things. I've been throwing pots, which has
Oh,
been really great.
oh,
So I've never
fun.
worked with clay before, and I really felt like I needed a completely different medium that would put me in a beginner's
Mm.
mindset and
Hmm.
really challenge me in that way, which clay definitely has. And so, yeah, I've been spending a little bit of time at the University of Alaska Anchorage ceramics studio. I'm in
You
my
know
third
what?
semester now, which is kind of crazy.
I have a
So,
couple of friends
yeah,
who've fallen down that rabbit hole, so
yeah,
I can sort of understand.
yes, yes. So, but that's been really good for me. It's been
Okay,
great.
well, that's
And I
wonderful.
think it's good for any artist to explore different mediums. I think it's super important.
Absolutely. Got to
Yeah,
step out of your comfort zone and play with something else, even if you never play with it again.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no. Well, thank you again. This was delightful.
Thanks, Natalia. It was great to see you.
What a wonderful conversation. I am so glad that I had this chance to chat with Amy. She's such a thoughtful artist. It was wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And follow Amy on her website, on Instagram. All the links are in the show notes. And if you're interested in coming along with me, you are welcome to join the Repurposer Collective. The doors are open and we would be happy to welcome you. Drop me a line, let me know if you're interested, and I hope to see you within the collective. Thanks. This podcast was created, produced, and edited by me, Natalia Korover. Theme music by R.C. Gaida. To find out more about me, go to artbynatalia.com. To find out about my community, go to repurposercollective.com. And to learn with me, check out all my offerings at ecoloop.art. Thank you for listening.